There is a truth that human beings sometimes find hard to accept, or some are not taught. The truth is that you are created with God as the template. You are the very image and likeness of God. So, because you were created to be like God, not to be God, there's a difference. You were created to and molded with God as the template, to be like God, to look like God, to be a reflection of Him, to act like Him, to operate like Him. Therefore, the best way to know about yourself is to know how God functions. In Genesis chapter 1, I'll read from verse 2. This is the scripture. Now the earth was formless and empty. The earth didn't have a form, so it was like empty. And darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. The word hovering there, it means to flutter lightly. Another word for it is to tremble, but I prefer the word fluttering because it's more synonymous with the meaning. For example, in Deuteronomy chapter 32 from verse 11, the first part, it speaks of an eagle. It said, like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, flutters over its young. So like an eagle over its nest, still flying but not going anywhere. So moving within a particular space, within a particular spot, hovering over it, but not going anywhere, staying there. So he said the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters that covered the formless earth. And the scripture said in verse 3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Verse 4 says, and God saw that the light was good. The light was good, and He separated the light from the darkness. So what was He doing hovering over the waters? Fluttering above a particular spot. That's the earth, the formless earth. The Spirit of God. The word Spirit is like wind, is the word Ruach Elohim. It's like the wind of God, the breath of God. That's how the Spirit of God is described. The wind of God, the breath of God, staying over that spot, over the earth. The next verse that tells us that God said, let there be light, gives us an indication of what God was doing while He was hovering. His inner being was hovering over the waters. Then His mouth spoke after He had hovered, fluttered over that particular spot for some time. Before I explain what He was doing, let's go to what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 12 verse 24. He said, you brood of vipers. He was speaking to people that He was a bit upset with. He said, you brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So God spoke in Genesis what His heart, His spirit, His innermost being was full of. So what was He doing hovering over the waters? Well, what follows in that chapter 1 of Genesis lets us know what He was doing in verse 2 of chapter 1 of Genesis while He was hovering. He was forming in His heart what He wanted to see on the earth. So God was forming in His innermost being, in His spirit, what He wanted to see as He hovered over that spot. Now, why is this important? We're talking about your mouth and your destiny. Because we operate like God. To create our world, we have to have the right thoughts. We have to know what we want to see in our lives. We have to know what we want to see in our world, in the situations. And to create something, you have to have a picture of it, what you want to create in your heart. And then you form it. So, like Jesus said, he said, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. God spoke what his heart was full of. As you go on, let's go back to Genesis. It says in verse 6 of chapter 1, and God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate the water from the water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it, and it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. So as you read on, God continues to create, but he doesn't go back to hovering. He doesn't go back to fluttering with his spirit over the situation. No, what he does is to start creating everything, speaking out everything he had seen in his heart. He had created in his thoughts. He had formed in his innermost being, in his spirit. And his mouth spoke the abundance of what was in his spirit. Like Jesus said, the mouth speaks what the heart, what the spirit, what the innermost being, that's the word heart, is full of. Now, why is this important? Because Proverbs 18, verse 20 to 21 says, from the fruit of their mouth, a person's stomach is filled. Not the fruit of out of the tree. No, from the fruit of their mouth, a person's stomach is filled. With the harvest of their lips, they are satisfied. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruits. He's saying what you see in your life is as a result of what you speak. What you are going to be satisfied with, what you're going to get in your life is going to be as a result of the fruits of the things you have been saying. And he said also, as Jesus said, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So to see the right things in our lives, to see the right things in our world, we should take very seriously what Paul told the Philippians. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent, if it is praiseworthy, think about such things. I like the complete Jewish Bible version of it. It said, in conclusion, brothers, focus your thoughts on what is true, noble, righteous, pure, lovable, and admirable, on some virtue or on something praiseworthy. You choose what you focus your thoughts on. And that also tells you that you have to read the right things. You have to watch the right things. You have to hear the right things, because all this influence your thoughts. And your thoughts influence your words. And your words shape your life. You will eat the fruits of the things you have said. And the things you have said come from the abundance of what is in your spirit, what is in your heart, what you have actually created for yourself and for your world in your heart. So you will eat the fruit of it, of those words, whether good, whether bad, whether God's will for your life or not God's will for your life. So it's vital to understand that this is how the human being operates. Even in creative arts, We form things in our mind. Sometimes we form it as we go along, sometimes we form it at the beginning, but we form it in our hearts. And then we produce what is in our hearts. We eat the fruits. We see the fruits of the things we have created in our spirits, in our minds. So this is important because we have to watch what we say. But before we watch what we say, we have to watch what we feed our thoughts, what we feed our minds, and then think whatever is true, noble, righteous, pure, lovable, admirable, or some virtue or something praiseworthy. Now, I want to just say this. You might see some people think bad thoughts in their heart, but they say the right things. And some people think good things in their heart, and sometimes they say the wrong things. Well, if you are like that and you practice that kind of falsehood, you train your spirit to be double. Therefore, whatever it comes out of your mouth will always be falsehood. Why do I say so? He said in Psalm 12, verse 2, the psalmist says about a group of people like that, they lie to one another. They speak with flattering lips. A flattering lip is a lip that speaks what is not in conjunction with his heart. He said they speak with flattering lips and a double heart. Jeremiah speaks what God thinks about that kind of double heart. In Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 3, he says, they bend their tongues like bows to shoot an arrow. They bend their tongues like bows. Lies prevail over truth in the land. So because they do not speak truth, they do not speak honestly, because they don't have honest thoughts in their hearts, they speak different from what is in their heart, deliberately, because it has to take an effort to do that. So when they speak what is different from what is in their heart, they cause lies to prevail in their lives and in the land. So the land is not operating by truth. It doesn't even recognize truth anymore. Lies prevail. Untruths prevail. Become the culture of the society. So even the truths about the way a human being functions or is, they can't accept it anymore because they have deceived their own hearts to believe a lie. So they bend their tongues like bows. Lies prevail over truth in the land. For they proceed from evil to evil, and they do not take me into account, declares the Lord. So the reason why you can have a double heart and a flattering tongue is because you do not take God into account. But they do not realize that there is an ultimate judge. And in Psalm 28 verse 3, this is what the psalmist says, because he recognizes there is an ultimate judge. He said, do not drag me away with the wicked and with workers of iniquity, who speak peace to their neighbors while malice is in their hearts. He said, do not drag me away with the wicked. So the psalmist here, the writer of the Psalm 28 verse 3, is saying, there is a judgment coming for those who say one thing with their mouth, but their heart is different. They have a double heart and flattering lips. So not only do they cause evil to prevail in the land, no, they are marked out by God to be dragged away with the wicked. Like God says, they have not taken him into account. Because there's something you should know about God. God knows how human beings function. So he doesn't even just listen to the words of their mouth. He does listen, but he looks at their heart as well. So human beings cannot see what is in the heart of a person, but God can. And he judges that. But human beings, when they speak according to the truth in their heart, they cause prosperity in their lives. And prosperity, I'm not just saying money, I mean wellness of the soul. That spills over into wellness in other aspects of their lives. So if you want to change something, change a situation, start to think differently. Feed your mind differently. This is what I have decided to do because it's a principle in the scripture. And you should do the same, not just for your own life, for your world, for the place where you have authority. Speak truth because you think truth. And how do you think truth? Because you expose yourself to those things that are noble, to those things that are true, to those things that are righteous, to those things that are pure, to those things that are lovable, admirable, virtuous, and praiseworthy. God bless you. I'm Deborah.